You know what parts negotiation is?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
We on.
No, not yet. Now
Uh,
we are.
we are on. Let's talk about parts.
You
What?
talking to me? I'm
You talking
talking.
to me? What
You
part
talking
of
to
me?
me?
Are you talking to me?
Which part of me?
What part of me? What's that little voice in your head saying to you now?
Oh my goodness.
You can go
So
for this part, this part, this part.
So the funniest thing is the thing I had a call yesterday and somebody didn't wanted to know more about parts negotiation. And I guess the first thing, right? Some people want to reject a negative thought. That's probably want to invite it in. Invite it in. It's trying to tell you something. When you shut it out, it just makes it angrier. Like so basically, what they teach in hypnosis and NLP, and basically, we have personas, right? Definitely, who's executive. Like when you answer the phone, what persona is answering that phone? And maybe sometimes you're not listening to all of your personas because they're all part of you, right? So if you get like a negative voice, which I remember I had a huge shift, and I'll make a video about it later about my parts negotiation and when I was able to click that into play. And then life changed at that very moment when I was able to invite that voice in, find out what it wanted, and then move forward. Jeff?
Yeah, definitely. Uh, each part of you, we all have many, many, many parts, and they become executive at a certain point when they come up and they kind of, which one are you going to let take over like a call, like a sales call? You get your part that's a good salesperson. What about when you're teaching? It's a different mode. So we go in different modes all the time. And a lot of times you can even get into a certain state. You can act like you're bigger than you are and become bigger than you are before even a sales call. So then you have the attitude of selling. But then when you're at home watching TV, you don't have that same thing. And then we also have the negative parts. Like he was saying before, he says, oh, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not this enough. And what we want to do is stop, look at it and understand what it's saying. It's sort of like even with pain, pain usually is for a purpose. It's saying something you need to address. Those little voices in your head, those negative voices, you really want to respond to them and say, it's not really that case, because they're taking you down. The more you think about anything, the more you find of anything. So if you're letting your negative self-talk rule you, what we want to do is address it, stop it, and put better parts of you to come up to take the executive from the oh I can't do it, I can't and we
What
bring
can't you
out the part
do?
that we
Be
can
more
do it.
specific. Be more specific about what you can and can't do, right?
Yeah. There's certain things you really can't do, and I don't well, I used to do this, but I don't do it anymore. But what I used to do is say, uh, you can't jump off a big building like 4 stories high and not expect to be hurt. I mean, most people won't, but you can expect that you could do something that you really want to if you put your effort towards it every single day. Wouldn't you think? Instead of what I can do, is stop focusing what you can't do, and let's start focusing what you can do. I think that's a good start right there. Just and did you know when you say I can't, your unconscious mind cuts out all the resources because it says you don't want to. So what we really want to do when we say we instead of saying I can't do it, say I am working on improving or I am working on that instead of saying I can't because it just knocks it out of it. That go ahead.
So I guess it just becomes the question of, are you listening to your different personas in their full intent, right? My biggest transformation was that I helped a company become really successful. And then I found out because I had helped this company that I had no say over what kind of work this company was going to get. So I got whatever was deemed necessary by somebody else. And my couple different personas were beating each other up. They were like, "Well, look at what you did. You did all this work and you helped somebody else, and now you have no over control over the rest of your of how much money you make because you just gave it to somebody else. And now look at you. What are you gonna do? You spent all this money and time and energy, helping somebody else out. Now what? Now you have no control. The guy has complete control over you." And then I got really depressed about it. Like I didn't know what I could do about it. But that persona just beating me down the whole time. And I wanted to shut it out. I was really frustrated with the position that I was in, and I couldn't see a way out. Then I, eventually just had to sit down with this, persona and be like, okay, well, you're beating me up right now. Like we're part of the same body. Like, well, what can we do together to move forward? And we had to come up with rules and regulations. Now this is just me talking to myself. Rules and regulations for ourselves. It's kind of like, well, we did this hard work, to help somebody else out. Do you think we could do it for ourselves? Yeah. Okay. Well, where are we at right now? Well, in order to move to the next step, you have to tell this guy to go F himself. Do you think you could do that? You think that would make you feel better? And the other persona is like, yeah, I think I'd be all right with that. And if we were homeless tomorrow and we did all the things that we did by our value structure, would we be okay with that? Yeah, we could go homeless tomorrow as long as you tell this guy to go to F himself and we'll figure it out on our own because all we need are us. And that's what I did. And here we are now. And sometimes you have to take that major leap or step or whatever it is in order to figure out what is next because the future is not written, it's what you make of it. So when I was building in my company, I thought it was going to be more like the company that I had already built or helped build. And it didn't turn out to be that at all. And another thing that was rumbling around in my mind is that, narcissists, they say certain things about you and it challenges your ego and your pride and everything. And well, this person couldn't go around and saying that I didn't help build his company if I was able to go out and do it again and do it in half the time that I did building his. So that was another thing that added to my ego of lifting me up higher. Like, oh yeah, if you go out and build another company and you make it just as big as the other one, then the other person couldn't say that you didn't like because he's going to go around and tell everybody that I didn't help him, and then if it wasn't for him, he wouldn't be where he's at. But if you build your own company and it's pretty successful, you won't be able to say that, right? Like you wouldn't be able to prove you're wrong because if you know how to do it, then you could just do it again, right? And that's pretty much how that went. And then here we are today.
And another thing about parts is that all parts seem to want to do what they think is right. So they're doing it to usually to help you because most of the time all your parts they think they're right and they want to do whatever's right for you, and it might not be right for you. So you can negotiate with your parts and say, yeah, that might have worked for us before, but now it's not working. When you were making money, he was being fair to us. That was okay. But then when he didn't, that's when we got to figure out no, we don't want to change. No, we have to change if we're going to go here. So sometimes we have to decide that so your parts, whichever comes executive, you can help pull that one down and negotiate right here what's going to be best because they want to do the right thing for you. They just think they're right, and if you can convince they're not, so it's really fighting yourself and figuring out really or with somebody else to let you see where you're at in both ways and then negotiate what could they do together as a team, and then another part might just jump up and say what about this, and then you address all parts that come up at that time, and because all parts have something to say, and you don't want to really be struggling against yourself. So what you want to do is get yourself in a line and with the again with your values, and because if you're going against your values you're losing your self-esteem. So find your value. So there's a whole bunch to this other than just we're kind of saying this, and this, but there's also aligning yourself up with your values, your inner core values, and then using all these other parts to make that happen and live the life you're looking for. And then when something's not working, bring them all in and kind of negotiate which one's going to take it executive. Sometimes you want the guy who's pretty strong up here, the aggressive, saying, hey, we're not going to take this anymore. This is bull. And sometimes you need the negotiators that, I used to think that. I don't think it anymore.
Yeah.
But basically, our parts, we all have many, many different parts. The part that you go watch TV is not the part that comes to a sales call. You know, the part that's going fishing isn't the one that's going to your gig. You know, and the part that is lazy isn't the part that's going to be entertaining 400 people or something like that. So you gotta, all your parts need to be there, but they need to do their jobs, because sometimes you don't want your entertainer coming up when you're just trying to relax, because it's okay, because we all need to relax sometimes too, take a break.
The way I explain it is that you take all your parts and sit them down at the round table. Now, of course, it's whatever your imagination comes up with or whatever your inner core wants to do. But you all sit at the round table and then you bring your information forward and then analyze it as a group and figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And the more you practice this, the more you get a coach and help you out with it, the better you'll get at it, and the quicker you'll be with being able to switch different parts depending on where you're at, because there's another process inside of NLP called the new behavior generator. Well, basically, the way I explained it was, you could have had an argument in the past, and then you could go back and look at that argument and see, did you get the results that you wanted? Well, okay. Well, let's look at back at this argument. What did I say? What did the other person say? And what did the fly on the wall here? Or bird on the wall, stone on the wall, fly on the wall, camera. Take all this information in, analyze it, and figure out if you got what you wanted or not. And if you didn't get what you wanted, how would you be able to re tackle that same conversation, argument, confrontation, whatever you want to call it, to get a better results? And then let's just say that you didn't get the results that you wanted, and be like, would you have changed anything based on who your value structure is, or is that just a bad deal, right? Or that should have worked out a certain way. And if you could say, yeah, I wouldn't have changed anything, then you're fine. Then go find people that will work for you. I remember a time I sat down with somebody who wanted me to DJ his big conference and his big corporate event, and he was telling me all these songs that he wanted to play, and he wanted me to generate this feeling of the audience. And I was like, well, if you're telling me all the songs to play, then how am I being a DJ? I'm just, you can get a tech to go do that, and then maybe that'll generate what you're looking to do, because you're telling me what to play. They basically cuff at my hands, and I didn't get the gig. And then I was like talking to myself, as I usually do, and say, well, would you have wanted to change who you are to meet what this person wanted you to be? And I was like, no. Well, then I guess that wasn't, the deal for you, and that's okay too. As long as you stick to your value structure, you wouldn't have changed anything that happened. Yet at the same time, let's say I wanted that gig. Well, I could have, changed into somebody else and be like, yeah, man, this will definitely change the mood of the room. What great songs you picked. That's kind of fake to me. Other people do that because they want to morph and be a chameleon in any type of situation, where I used to do that a lot, and it kind of hit my ego. And it's kind of like, well, I'm not good enough. That's how I am. Like, why can't I just be me? Like, this person's telling me this is his vision, which is great, like, but like, I don't want to change who I am, and I can still do this feeling thing and get everybody all hyped and stuff. But if you're telling me what to play, what if I'm not feeling it? And then I can't translate that to the crowd, because that's all about being an entertainer and a DJ is being backed up by what you say and do. Like, so there's that as well. So it doesn't always have to go a certain way. But back to the new behavior generator. Let's say you got into a fight with somebody and you're like, well, maybe that's not what I wanted. Well, then maybe you could go back and listen to more of what the other person was saying, understanding where they were coming from, and then being better at explaining, your side of the situation. Not that you have to change or anything, yet you could just meet them halfway and then just figure out what a better route to take is from there. That's kind of what I was thinking on that.
Yeah, definitely. And that also that third bug or whatever you want to be on the wall, given its input too. And all so you get to see if you're using other people's perspective. A lot of times you're looking at what would the person in front of you say, what are you saying, and what are they thinking about what you say, and what is that person who's just watching you two in this conversation. And a lot of times that'll bring some new feedback that you can use. And because uh, we really don't make mistakes. We just get feedback to what do we do next to have it better. Okay. We're just being the best. What I tell everybody you're just doing the best you every day, making the best decision because people either move towards pleasure or away from pain. That's most normal people do that. So we're not really making mistakes, we're just learning. So everything that we didn't turn out to be exactly the way we want, we can learn from that and what would we do next? And we can change, like Scott just said, you don't have to change. And you, if you went in there and you did everything and you had this conversation and you thought, well, did I do wrong? And then you go back and you look at all three and you would do it again and again, you're probably right on where you need to be going with your ethics, what your values and what you believe. We're not saying back down from your belief system or who you are just to get a friggin' gig or get somebody to, be who you are because uh, you, if you change, and you can be a chameleon. I'm just saying, if that's what you want to be, you can be a chameleon and work on that. And that's if that gives you the pleasure of you being a chameleon, you can work anything, be that. But if you are somebody who believes their standard, their belief in what they are, and they want to do that, that's fine too. So don't be anyone else. Be who you are because everyone else is taken. So be yourself and find the way that gives you that sense of pride, that sense of goodness, and you're doing what's right for you and the people around you, and you'll have a better life. That's just straight on truth. So what and even though me and Scott, even though we help people, we can't tell you exactly what that is for yourself. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. But you probably know the basic things already. What you believe. You believe that. I'm not saying you believe it, but I believe I want people to be happy. I want to do a good situation for both people. I want, to not hurt people in any way, and not that you'll never hurt anyone, but I don't go out and intentionally try to hurt people. And later on, when you get even farther down the line, you'll be able to forgive other people. You don't have to like them, you don't have to want to do it. And then if you forgive yourself, and then you're finding your parts get stronger and stronger. So there's a lot to that. But uh,
It's a little bit of a maze, but you want to start with your values. Like the biggest thing is aligning your values, right? So I don't know, I'm on one of my Facebook posts or on my I have my values lined up. And then every time I'm faced with the decision, I go by my value structure to figure out, what the best decision is. And then, if you do it so much, you have it memorized. But it's always good to go back and then, recalibrate your values and so here's the thing. You have all these memories and all the different things you've done throughout your life, and then you've kind of categorize those whether or not you did a good job or not, or if you lived up to that value, and then you either feel good or bad about it. So what we do as coaches is that we go back into each individual situation or memory or experience or however you've categorized different things that you've done, and then have you look at it differently to live within that value and understand that if you did something undesirable, that you were just figuring out what that value actually meant, and then if you hadn't have done something bad or something that you didn't like, then you wouldn't have been able to find out or calibrate that value to begin with. So what you do is you map those across to your identity. I know I'm probably going to lose you here, but you map those across to your identity, and then you either say, yes, I'm an honorable person, or sometimes I'm an honorable person. Well, what do you mean by sometimes? Can you think of a few times where you weren't honorable? Well, okay. Well, you go back to these different experiences and then you make peace with them more or less. And then you add that to your bucket of honorable, right? Now you're like, well, is honorable or security more important? Well, to me, to be honor was more important than security. So if I was, broke or homeless or whatever, but at least I was honorable, I would be all right with that. And these are the tough questions that we ask inside of these coaching calls. And if you want to know more about that, make sure to see us on the website. And at the same time, when you have all this mapped out and you understand the depth of each one of these values and your experiences, and that you've mapped these across to your identity, then going forward makes it a lot easier on what decisions that you're going to make. And that's how you build confidence. That's how you live within your value structure. And I really advise anybody who's wants more confident would be better to go through these exercises and have shifts. You can have major shifts, little shifts. Yeah, it's just all about getting raising your consciousness and your confidence in order to move forward, whatever goals you have to go through in life. Because let's just face it, things aren't always easy. And it's going to take a confident person to move past any challenges that you have. Mm. And that's what we do as coaches. We help people figure out, get laser focused on whatever the goal is, what could be holding you back. And here's another thing, a lot of people may be holding themselves back because they're worried about what somebody else may think of them. Let's just say your path is your path, and whoever agrees with you will stick around, or whoever is important enough, to understand that you're doing what you got to do for yourself will stick around. Where I hate to tell you, most people will drop off, and you got to be okay with that. So it starts with being confident to begin with, to be able to stand up to, I don't know, even family sometimes to do what you got to do. That makes sense. Anyway, um, did I go off the deep end too hard?
No, no, I think that's totally true. You got to be true to yourself. I would throw in a caveat. It's not that you're really working on hurting anyone on the other side or not making them happy, but some people feel you're hurting them by not doing what they tell you to do. When people say you should do this, this is something I want you to just listen to your brain now for a while. Just listen to anyone who says you should, must do, or ought to do anything and say in your mind, just say to yourself while they're doing that, is that true? Is that really true? Is Are they coming for my best interest or theirs? And how do they know? How can anyone know what's right for you, what's best for you? You're the one who's going to have to decide that. So just watch those words from somebody else. That's usually somebody who's trying to control you or manipulate you, or, those are some scarcity
Well,
words. So think about
anyway, that's all the time I have for right now. I have a couple
it.
emails to go answer. I'll catch you guys on the next one.